well, there was a lot of controversy over that match against Japan with the amount of injury time that was played, and I know Morgan Williams very unhappy with that, and conceded that penalty in the final minute. So they'll want to put things right, and well, if they've been listening to the coach, you can expect a fairly physical encounter, can't you?
Yes. There's Rick Suggett looking on, and he's a lovely guy. He's obviously got known very well on the IRB7 circuit, and I think he's stopped now, but he never wore socks. And John Connolly and his multinational lineup of support. Allez les Wallabies. Finalists avec la France. Well, who knows? Mike James waits there, 34. Yeah, and after 5 caps until today, your 4th World Cup, the certainty that this is to be his last international game, despite all his earlier retirements, and the others with him, Rob Snow at 37 and John Thiel at 32, Morgan Williams at 31, all bowing out. You must, well, you've been there after so many caps. Your last game, and you know it's your last game, huge emotions must come, regardless of whether you try to keep them back or not.
Well, yes and no. I think, these guys, I'm sure they'll take a very professional attitude towards it, and they'll be focusing on the match. And really, it's only when the final whistle goes and you walk into that dressing room for the last ever time in a spirit of comradeship and teamship that it really begins to dawn on you, and that's when the emotional moment
what was your last one?
It was against Australia in 1992, yeah, many years ago, Nigel, but I was a young man then. I retired at 30.
You were 11.
These guys
okay, these guys, yes.
Rod Snow's got my career ahead of him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's gone on forever since capped 1995. Extraordinary, really. And Mike James first capped in 1994. So, advance Australia fair and O Canada. The 2 anthems that we will hear first of all. And this is the Australian one. Where they say rugby was first played in 1864, their first international 1899 against the British team, and 3 survivors of the team that played in the final against England 4 years ago: Lyons, Smith and Nathan Sharp. But now the anthem of Canada since 1880, O Canada. Proudly, there Glenella who's been helping out with Rick Suggett and the Canadian side, and Serge Blanco there in the heart of the tribune. Here's the Canada lineup then. As I mentioned, those three survivors of the World Cup final: David Lyons, George Smith and Nathan Sharp there in the second row. So a good body of experience with Ali Baxter there, and a pack with a lot of solidity about it. Interesting combinations out the back with Takiri, great finisher sometimes, but moving into the centre position, I'm not quite sure. Ashley Cooper out of the sevens into the midfield. Drew Mitchell, good finisher. Shepherd too. And Latham seems to have had a new lease of life.
Yes, he has, and he's been one of the standout players, I think, in this Rugby World Cup. It's been really, really good to see him. Such a potent attacking threat now for Australia.
Captain!
Chris White. Just waiting for the nod to go ahead. So 80 minutes to go in Pool B for Canada and Australia. Australia assured of their quarter-final, but it's Canada who want to go out with a display to do them justice. Knock on first offence.
Not the ideal start to Canada. You can see the rain coming down here in Bordeaux. Not ideal conditions. Giving away a little bit of weight in the scrum there.
So Tulsa Tollett, I hope you can hear me down on the ground. Didn't have time to speak just now, but how is it down on the ground? Is this rain? I can't really tell from high up here how bad the surface is.
There's one thing, Nigel, that when you're on the Atlantic or anywhere near it, that when the wind stops blowing and the rain comes down, you are going to be waiting quite a while for it to stop. It is bucketing down here on the touchline.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to get much better for at least this first half. It looks like it's settled in. But just on the subject of Rick Suggett, I know you're a very good friend of his. He did tell me to tell you that he won't be wearing shoes during the match.
There you go. Sort of these extraordinary bits of, what do you call it?
Trivia.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
I'm sorry.
Irrelevant information.
First penalty. So, well, either a nerve-wracking moment, a nerve-calming moment. Julian Huxley. He's only played 8 times for Australia, but it's not exactly a newcomer. He's been around. He's a newcomer in terms of getting his first cap, but he's 28 and got 40 points against Fiji in his third test match, but limited experience. 3 conversions, 1 penalty. Oh, he's lucky today. That will just settle the nerves. And very respectful to take the penalty goal.
Well, I think it's important. I mean, Australia will just want to win this match. Talked last night in the England against Tonga game, the importance of momentum and continuity and consistency for teams. And you know, Australia, they've stuttered a little bit, as he said, in the match against Wales. But you know, they want to build on a good performance leading into the quarter-final weekend next weekend.
Yeah, next Saturday in Marseille.
Number one, go! Number one, you go! Number one, go! Let go, let go! It's out, boys! It's out, boys!
It's Adam Freer.
Go, sorry, mate. Sorry. Sorry, mate. Right, don't do that quicker next time, please. No, you again. Adjust. Thank you.
There's Mike James then. Well, conditions not what they would hope for, particularly I think Australia, but it can be a great leveller. And that, without being patronising, could be of assistance to Canada as Morgan Williams, canny player, puts up a good ball, and that might be a useful tactic in these conditions.
Yeah, I think definitely, and also to get the Australians turned. Big set of forwards, get them turned.
There's the Scotsman under Munro. Born in Canada, but as David Salt proudly says, one of the products of his own native land, and brought up there at school there, university there. And a good opening salvo from him. Went through all the Scotland junior representative sides too, didn't he?
Yeah, also a very talented cricketer.
Is he? Like you. You played the other day, you told me.
Yeah, I wouldn't put talented in front of my when you describe me as a cricketer, that's for sure, mate.
That's an impressive drive, and Canada reeling backwards. And Canada are being, well, they're just being carted out of this. They're just one after the other, and they've made, what, 45 yards or so more.
Number 1, come on! Number 4!
Just wonder if Canada shouldn't commit a few more players instead of standing off.
Well, it was a very well-constructed drive by Australia. Good body position, obviously communicating really well.
You came out and then you went back into the second round.
Hey, B, Baxter!
It's one of the fine arts of forward play.
It was interesting last night in the England-Tonga match. Tonga actually stepped off. England were driving. Tonga actually stepped off the line-out, which prevented England from driving in the second half.
Interesting, they'd obviously thought that one through.
Yeah, I just wonder if Australia continued like this, whether Canada might take a leaf out of the Tongan book, because that was a very well-constructed drive, and they drove, as you say, about 30 metres there.
Thank you.
Superb. So, they create a good platform here. Not tidy. McMenamin. Yeah, you probably heard Chris White say, not the most auspicious line-out.
These two gentlemen, thank you. Here's your mark.
Couldn't quite take a good interference there by Canada at the line, challenging flat ball.
Pause. Nobody said anything, that's both sides. Just relax and wait, gentlemen. Just relax and wait. Let's do it again, please. Come a touch closer. Second row's in, please.
Morgan
Stand
Williams.
up, please.
Well, he's
Australian second row. If you take that bind again, you will be penalised. You must bind with your second row.
52 caps, including today.
You must
Lots
bind
of
with a lot.
advice here about the binding from Chris White.
In strong. Crouch. Touch. Pause. Engage.
Very commanding voice from Chris White in his third World Cup.
He's done it. He's done it.
Accordingly to Huxley.
Away, Red. Thank you, Red. That's good. Okay, you can't play that player in front of the ball. You've tackled him. You're obstructing. Number 13.
Takiri
Leave it.
is penalised
Gentlemen, move away.
for the obstruction.
Number 13 tackled a player in the defence.
Just a little bit of indiscipline by the Australians. For Takiri here. Just before that, I think.
Yeah. Fijian born. Like some of New Zealand's best players. Notably a couple of wingers.
Well, I had a discussion in a previous match, and got an email from South Africa about how these guys were perfectly within their rights, and like Takiri brought up in Australia.
Oh, it's quite true, they are within their rights according to the rules, just as Mike Catt plays for England.
Yeah, or Andy Munro for Canada.
Or Andy Munro played for Canada. But it's just some of those South Pacific skills that New Zealand have harnessed so well. And of course, that's where they play their rugby and always have done. Not the perfection that Australia would have hoped for. Conditions difficult.
Well, just lack of momentum there.
There is.
I mean, in previous games, they've actually been putting a lot of pace, a lot of aggression on their ball carrier. Rocky Elsom in particular has been very good in the Australian back row, but that time very static.
It's goal. See what's happened. That's at the top. You see, gentlemen, the top of the jump, he's nudged it forward. He's scrum goal this time. Top of the jump. That's fine, right? Yeah.
Well, a rare chance for Canada to face one of the top nations in the world. They've not played Australia for 11 years. And you can understand why they want to be there, and been having this argument, or not argument, discussion with quite a lot of people over the last few days about how many teams do you want in a World Cup, and what does it mean when Australia play Canada or Japan or Namibia, Georgia. Come back to that in a moment as Australia attacks through Adam Ashley Cooper. Accordingly,
away, red on the floor, let go. Move away, number 8. Move away, number 8. You're the problem.
He's talking to Sean Michael Stephen. David Biddle, the back row. They're cringing a bit, aren't they? And they've got to roll away as well, he's saying.
Well,
yeah.
Sam Cordingley got pulled right over that ruck from the back of the Canadian, which meant that when the ball was out, there was no one home.
Yeah.
But as Chris White said, it was the number 8 who transgressed before that. That's well taken there.
Well, another of the Sevens products, Justin Mensah-Coker.
Take the front wall cheek, take the front wall cheek.
Who opted out of playing back home and is now playing for Albi alongside Morgan Williams.
Hold, gentlemen.
Not sure whether that's going to continue next season. This is Adam Freer again of the Waratahs.
No move, lads, no move. Let go. Stay on your feet, don't play him.
Big impact of David Lyons.
Away, Red, thank you, Red. Thank you,
Ashley Cooper again. Well, I was watching the New Zealand game, and inevitably the comparisons will come with anyone watching. And there's a totally different quality of finishing, and the conditions are different, of course. The earlier game in Toulouse was perfectly dry ground and so on, and I think that's beginning to affect the handling here. But I mean, it was clinical. New Zealand, absolutely sensational. They scored a try in 30 seconds, and you know, I can't help but now come in to see this, and not in the same league.
Yes, I mean, as you say, it's different conditions, but you know, I think Australia will be looking to try and be precise and accurate in everything that they do, and just cut out the mistakes. Yeah, slippery ball is going to account for a lot of mistakes, but notwithstanding that.
No, it's not been authoritative at all yet, has it?
No, not yet.
Set up by Sean Michael Stephen. Comparative newcomer, playing only his second start in this World Cup. A few words there, and Munro with the scrum half. That's David Biddle of the Marilomas. Good take, Mark Chisholm. Accordingly, Huxley. Oh, well taken. And calling the mark at the same time. I mean, that is well, Chelsea. What's it? Chelsea goalkeeper would be happy with this, wouldn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking you get a game in the Premiership with that. Oh. Look at that, brilliant skills.
Can you make a mark while landing on your bum? Clearly. You don't actually have to start with your leg anymore, do you? That's long gone.
No, that's right. That's right. But you just sense that Canada are a little bit more up for this game than Australia are. They're a little bit more aggressive at the contact areas. They're making a nuisance of themselves. They're itching to get in amongst the Australians, whereas the Australians just a little bit tentative, which...
yeah, it shows through. You're right, David. Freer's throw, then. David Lyons trying to rumble it off with Freer here. Will they go off to the open side?
Stay back, stay back. Accidentally offside.
Stay bound. Stay bound.
No, he's not.
But even there, I mean, there's no sort of drive or bite. You don't see the Australians' legs pumping, whereas the work rate of the Canadians, they're working off the ball, they're hitting the rucks and mauls really, really hard. But
Canada,
we just need to up the intensity, I think, a little bit, Australia.
Come on, let's go. Right. See scrum. Tag closer, gentlemen.
Sense, Tulson, that the crowd may be a little bit surprised that Australia are looking nothing special at the moment.
Yeah, totally different atmosphere to Tuesday's match between Japan and Canada, where the crowd were really on their feet. This match, almost leading into it, had that air of inevitability, didn't it? That
yes,
Australia were going through, Canada, this was their last game. But down here on the sideline, it's almost as if the Australian team are going through the motions, and that could be dangerous come later in this match. John Connolly spoke about positions being up for grabs. At the moment, it doesn't seem like it.
Yes, like those who aren't on the field are the ones who are going to be playing. Well, conditions certainly haven't helped, but it's not subdued the crowd, has it, Tulson?
Absolutely not, and I can tell you now, it's almost like the monsoon season here in Bordeaux. I'm down on the touchline with no umbrella, gentlemen.
Can't see, you've got no umbrella.
I'm on the far side over here, and I'm down, no umbrella, but I'm absolutely loving it. Isn't it great?
It's getting worse, isn't it?
It is.
Should we have a glass of wine after our cup of coffee, Nigel?
Well, that's going to be dangerous of his own making. He wasn't interfered with in the line-out accordingly. Well, sheltering his fly half that time.
It's through the middle, lads.
Luke Tate. Intense look of Rick Suggett there. Scrum half was Cameron Shepherd. Been better still, in fact, if it stayed in, but how sensible. In fact, these conditions, you've got to start playing it down 22 of the opposition, haven't you?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, they took the quick penalty, got in behind Canada, then it was a little bit more intense, and a lovely little cross kick by Huxley there.
I think we go out and get one of those for Tulson Tollett. Look, I mean, he could do with one of those, even if it makes him look like a ghost.
I think they're sold out, aren't they?
Stay there, receiver.
Well, it's a great tribute to the French marketing operation and their enthusiasm for top-level sport, and particular rugby, that this is a sellout here. Someone was telling me they actually provide special aprons, one or two of the guys, Montpellier in particular. On every seat there's an apron. I don't know if you've seen this, Tulson, but for which you can lift it up when you lift your hands up doing the Mexican wave.
I haven't actually seen that, but I can tell you one thing. I'm just wondering whether they put down a whole heap of those raincoats on your side of the pitch over there, because they all put them on at once, the Australian supporters.
Well, they probably did. Yes, it was free issue with the tour party leader. Here come Australia. 16, 17 minutes they got to cross the line.
Let go, number 12. Let go, 5. Back foot.
Just by comparison, New Zealand scored 3 tries in 15 minutes against Romania earlier today. Big drive here.
Stay up, goal, stay up. Back foot, number 7.
David Lyons is standing off to the right. Watch for him to go. No, turnover ball. And it's Takiri, and Canada weathered the storm. That's not Takiri, that's Ashley Cooper.
But that was a great piece of robbing by Canada as Australia came through. Watch this tackle here.
Yeah.
It's the fullback, Pritchard, Van der Merwe, who rips the ball away. And it's these, as you said before, it's these little bits of finishing which are just causing Australia 1 or 2 problems. 20 minutes in, and now 17 minutes in, and they've only got a 3-point lead. I'm sure they would want to. They'd want to be further ahead than that by this stage in the game. Nathan Sharp giving some attention there. I'm sure John Connolly will want him.
The sense Morgan Williams is counting, see how many of the opposition were on the pitch. Well, the longer that Canada keep Australia at bay, the more unsettled the Wallabies may well become, the more confident Canada will become. And right now, there's not a lot in it, except for the majority of possession coming Australia's way. Nathan Sharp setting that one up. Then there's Lyon going in. Accordingly, Huxley. Well, fair play to Canada. They're filling the holes at last minute in defence. Greg Holmes, that time advantage being played to the line, and this could be the first score. The referee is probably going to take it upstairs, but it's going to be a try, I think, for Hugh McMenamin.
Well, it looked pretty certain.
Big moment, because if so, it will be his first ever try.
We believe a try has been scored. You're happy yet? Right, Lyndon. We believe
Lyndon Bray.
a try has been scored. Is there any reason that we cannot award the try?
No. No reason at all.
The number 2 from goal was taken out behind the ball. I've had words from my touch judges that players in support
it looks just short there, actually. Well, my goodness.
Steve.
Having said that, I think I might, yes, might eat my words very quickly here. I'm not sure.
Just occurred with the number 2.
I don't think he's got a, on the line is of course okay, but
no, you can't take him out. It was behind the ball.
Well, Steve Walsh reckoned he got there.
He did.
Morgan Williams does a great job of trying to hold him up there.
Chris Wright thinks he got there, but he's actually got to ground this on the line. I don't think he'll give that.
I think he's fractionally short.
Yeah, because that hand is back from the line and the ball is just behind. No, it's not a try, is it? Unless I still think the problem. I maintain the slow motion with the video guy upstairs, I don't think often answers the questions, and I wish referees would just make an instant decision. I mean, all this beating gong in the background and things. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. In the game last night again between England and Tonga, I was convinced that Paul Saki hadn't scored his breakaway try because, to my mind, his elbow was on the line as he grounded the ball. And for me, that ought to have been a 22 dropout. But well, when you look at it from that angle, the ball looks absolutely on the line. Whereas when you're looking at it from the other angle behind the try line, it looked very different.
I don't think it helps.
So you believe that it was not a try, yeah?
Not a try.
So your advice is a 5-metre scrum attacking ball, yes?
There you go. Right. No try. Adds to Australia's discomfort and John Connolly's.
No, I don't think so, lads. I think we can come back a touch.
Well, great defensive work by Morgan Williams.
Well, wasn't it? Absolutely.
Really fighting hard.
Who's going to score here then? David Lyons?
That's fine.
Sort of back row sort of day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Rather more than 12, 13, 14. Accordingly to feed then. 20 minutes gone and Australia yet to cross Canada's line. They'll not be content with that.
Well, Rod Snow will need to be careful there. He's being bent in by Al Baxter. He's angling in.
Well, 37 he's surrounded. Well, what? There's all good front rows go on.
There's all good front rows say, pleading their innocence. Oh, yeah, that tight head he's boring in, he's dreadful.
Rod Snow, Rock of Canada, from the Newfoundland Rock Club in his last couple of seasons. Well, it was going to go with the back row. It's 90 degrees round and Canada will get the put in. Creditable effort from them, lack of control from Australia. They won't be impressing anyone, least of all themselves at the moment.
You wonder whether they're going to get a little bit frustrated by the resilient defence that Canada are putting up.
Crouch, touch, pause, engage.
It's been a pretty sorry few minutes for Australia, this, and courageous from Canada in defence.
He's lost it forward. We'll have another scrum, gentlemen. Be careful.
This is not the greatest exhibition, but it's tense at the moment.
Well, these games are always difficult. If you've qualified for the quarter-final, you know where you're going to be playing the following weekend.
Come closer, please, Australia.
It becomes less meaningful as a match. Whereas if, Canada, with their backs against the wall, they've never been to a World Cup and not won a match until this World Cup. So, so much to play for them.
That's a very good point. Yes, it adds to the motivation. And the fact that it's Australia increases it several-fold. To actually get a good result and be in contention with Canada, the longer they can do that, the greater the credit they must take and will feel. And they've got a penalty here. What would happen there?
Well, Al Baxter, the one penalised for just folding in there. But you remember that terrific game that Canada had in 1991 against the All Blacks in France.
Yeah, 29, I'm just looking it up, I'm not being clever here, but 29-13 in the quarter-final.
Yeah,
yes.
And a very, very competitive Canadian side.
Yeah. Don't think Rod Snow was in that one. Nearly was. Been in 3 before. His farewell today. And I think as every minute passes here, as I said, conditions have helped Canada in a sense that they've certainly not made life easier for Australia to dominate and show their superior skills, which undoubtedly they do have. But I just sense a much more inspirational effort from Canada. As you can see from that, they're just piling in. They are on a high.
Well, I think they're taking the coach at the word.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, the tackler there, Mark Chisholm, was on the wrong side, and I think when you get in those sorts of positions, you run the risk of getting a damn good shoeing. But
for those who've just joined us here, what was it Rick Suggett said?
It was a very technical expression. We're going to go out and kick the crap out of the Australians.
Well, they're making a good fist of it at the moment. That's Stephen in some trouble, but still making some sort of impact. But I think that may have been ripped away from Canada. It has. Turnover ball. Maybe Australia needed that sort of kick in the pants to get into this one. Huxley goes wide to Takiri.
Don't touch the Scotland. Don't touch the Scotland.
Wish people had said that in my day.
Hands away on the ball. Back foot, no number 3.
Accordingly, again, that's the big second row, Nathan Sharp, and well, fine, but kick it into touch, and it's a throw into the opposition.
Well, you have to give credit to the Canadian defence. They're slowing the ball down at the contact areas for Australia, and it's just allowing their defence to realign, get organised, and then the commitment is second to none. They're really throwing themselves into the tackles.
Well, I know Rick Suggett said he wanted them, particularly those who are bowing out, to play the game of their lives, and they're certainly giving it full throttle at the moment. Some of these old hands, that's Rod Snow just getting up after being dumped. Player who's, people of course in the UK will remember him 190 times with Newport. Before that played for Eastern Province in South Africa, but ended up back in his homeland in Newfoundland, but became quite a stalwart of the Barbarians too in the UK, and irrepressible over the last 13 seasons. John Thiel, another who extraordinarily not only has played around Llanelli and Bridgend and Sale and Narbonne, but actually the number 3, I must pick him out because here's a player who's played after having had open heart surgery. John Thiel, the number 3 prop, there he is on this near side. Extraordinary.
Nice.
And that was only in 2006.
Really?
Yeah. Hope someone gave him the all clear.
touch. Pause.
Well, of course,
Scary, really. That was not to do with rugby either.
Simon Best had problems as well.
Yeah. Happily.
No more. We both attempt to get a bind. We have to play without
Yes, the earlier, more serious worries seem to have evaporated a little bit.
Yeah.
From what I've heard this morning. Well, the rain is unrelenting, Tolson. How are you doing down there? You drowned rat yet?
Absolutely. I hope you're enjoying that nice glass of red up there after the coffee, David. But down here on the sideline, it certainly looks as if the Canadian team are the ones who are the better of the two at the moment. They just seem to be scrambling. Much better is the word I can use for the little balls that are on the ground, Nigel. That's what they seem to be doing better. More enthusiasm from the Canadian team.
Yeah, they're much more fired up, and they're just making life uncomfortable for Australia at the moment. 22 minutes, 3-0 would not be pleasing this man. Doesn't look that cheerful the best of times. A bit like Graham Henry. Didn't see him smile while New Zealand were playing and scoring 13 tries.
Let's see if Australia can make something out of this one. They've had all the territorial pressure.
Correct. McMenamin to Freer. So back to what they did at the very, very beginning. Advantage here as someone gets decked and obstructs in the way about 8-10 metres out. Kiri turns it back to the support accordingly.
Let go now, boys.
Well, I think that's going to be advantage played again. This is Takiri. Penalty against Mike James for offside. Well, he knows where to be to get in the way, that's for sure. I've seen him do that with Stade, I'd say. Try in the corner. And finally... Wow, what relief for Australia.
Well, there was an air of inevitability about that. Canada's defence was right up in the faces of the Australians, and they made it very, very difficult for them.
Well, inevitable somehow that it would be a prop forward scoring for his first ever time in his... Actually, it's his 50th international today. This is his first try, and he was obviously waiting for it out there. Al Baxter.
But it was just Australia flooded that narrow side. Al Baxter was out there on his own to start off with, and Rod Snow drifted out to try and cover him. But then Australia flooded the blind side, and it was just a little bit too much for Canada.
Yeah, I'm just double checking that, because I can't think of anyone else who's played 50 caps and never scored. And that's true. Baxter. Oh, Baxter. From the New South Wales Waratahs. Directing his 116 kilograms to good effect, and his first try, and the conversion is close, but not close enough. So,
well, you wonder if that's going to build Australia's confidence. Good hands there, good power. Nothing Morgan Williams could do this time around. But Australia have dominated the territorial exchanges. They've dominated possession. It's just the mistakes which, you know, you could put a lot of them down to the conditions. It is very, very difficult.
First knock on. So, a bit of...
Lyndon, can you confirm the time, please? Off on the bench.
Stop. The clock has gone wrong.
It's 29 minutes gone, lads. 29 minutes gone. Thank you.
If you're hearing all this, I hope you are. 29 minutes gone of this first half. Took a long time for Australia to get the first try of the day. Nice switch by Munro. Just about the first three-quarter attack that's been mounted, and Munro is feeling confident and offloads well to John Thiel now. And as ever, the home crowd just delighted to do all they can to lift the underdogs, especially against Australia. No, that was foolhardy. What on earth? Advantage for something. What on earth induced someone to fly hacking at that particular moment? I mean, that is hot-headedness or what? Or was it accidental?
Well, I think Chris White has come back from the knock-on there. The ball just gets released forward, I think, and...
Well, it was intentional. It was James Pritchard.
Yeah, not a smart piece of play.
Not clever.
You'd want to, in these sorts of conditions, you want to get a body on it and claim the ball.
Absolutely.
Stay on number 6, stay on number 6.
Half an hour played. Monroe.
Take the front, Walshy.
Just 26, the fly half. Now he's joined the Waterloo Club, ex-Edinburgh. His opposite number, Julian Huxley from the Brumbies, law student in Canberra.
22, 36, 46, go!
In between, I guess, the small gaps left in his full-time rugby career.
Stay here.
Baxter. Well, trying to force the issue in the midfield. It's just looks half pace. That's not a bad ball, putting it in behind the backs, but well picked up and well played by Van der Merwe. Morgan Williams. Dan Mensah-Coker. It's not very impressive, is it?
No, it's not. It's a bit of a scrappy match. They did well to do it, but I think it was Mike James got picked up there for obstructing Mensah-Coker, or obstructing the person trying to tackle Mensah-Coker.
Captain George Smith there. Haven't seen so much of him as yet. Most capped back row forward in Australian history.
Yes, lovely. Please talk to him. Please talk to him, yeah. Number 1, pulling down, yeah.
But I have to say, with all due respect, Australia just look as they don't want to be here.
No penalties.
No, and yet they're dominating, really. I mean,
Yes, yes.
you know, they've dominated territory by 73 to 27. They're dominating
pretty
possession
emphatic.
by 68 to 32.
And one try to show for it. Good work in the line-up, Mark Chisholm then. Now this could actually bring the pack some reward for all their effort. They're over the line, must be a score. Doesn't need a video referee for that. Okay, that will do. Well played, another front row Union try. Adam Freer this time. And believe it or not, that's his first try as well. Perhaps this is all what it's all about. They're trying to get everyone who's never scored a try, trying to get a try today. Look at him rumbling through and underneath. Shortest, but still one of the strongest. This man who started out with Randwick, and he's only had 15 caps spread over 5 years. This is his first start for 2 years.
Well, it's interesting. Australia did a terrific driving maul from about the first line out they had in the match, and they drove Canada back by about 30 yards. This is only about the second time they've done it, and I'm surprised that they've not tried to set up these driving mauls, just particularly given the conditions and particularly given the strength and power that they have up front.
2 tries, halfway to a bonus point. Those sort of things are fairly academic now. Kicking's not going so well for Julian Huxley. Not easy in these conditions, but comes above their professionals.
Well, it's not
Thanks, Walshy.
too much of a concern that he's missing kicks in this particular match, but
Have a look, make sure there's nobody in front, okay?
say Sterling Mortlock usually has those
Yes,
duties.
indeed.
Very reliable.
As long as these sort of question mark people are going to be fit, that's a problem, of course. And then there's Berwick Barnes. who seems to be a very
No, stay there now.
promising talent.
You haven't listened.
Haven't seen him before this World Cup and been mightily impressed.
I told you, you didn't listen.
He's got some sort of niggle.
Please listen to what I'm saying.
Some sort of little injury problem. Go away, Colin Hughes, says referee Chris White.
I give 5 minutes.
Anything down there to cheer me up, Tulson?
Well, if you'd like a bet, I could probably tell you to put your money on Hugh McMenamin and Sam Cordingley, because they haven't scored a try either. But as far as
you've been doing your homework, right?
I have been, haven't I?
Wouldn't that be a special bet?
It would be at that. It would be. That would be the bonus point. But as far as the conditions down here on the sideline, Nigel, it started to come down heavier again. There is no wind. I can't see any wind coming from the southeast as it was pre-match. So I think at this stage we could be stuck with it for the remainder.
I keep looking for you, and I thought you looked as though you were underneath one of those covers that the cameramen have got. I
am. I'm down here cringing by myself with my raincoat on, and I can tell you this: the Italian trousers I've got on won't be lasting me much longer.
Yeah, the dye comes out as well. Did you know that? Particularly in the underwear.
Only on your pairs, Nigel.
4 minutes to half time then. 13-0 Australia. Well, the whole game virtually in its entirety played in this half, but not a great deal to show for it. And that owes something to the Canadians' efforts in defence. That's got knocked forward in the tackle.
Australia just beginning to put one or two phases together, but it's a fantastic double team
tackle on George Smith.
Can you confirm the time, please, Lyndon? Lyndon, can you...
Tulson, could you tell the referee it's 3.5 minutes to go in this half?
Let me tell you why that was the case earlier, Nigel, when he said there was 29 minutes. On the big screens here, which you can't see from your position, there was 17 minutes showing on the clock, and even myself had to have a look at my watch just to make sure that I wasn't seeing things. But
that's why the Australians were sort of coasting a bit.
Absolutely.
Just sort of trying to, if it's going to be sort of 2.5 times as long as usual.
It could be. Let me tell you this, I went and watched Connacht play Cast over in Galway about 2 weeks before the World Cup, and I think there was more intensity and passion in that game than I've seen in this.
Leave it, that's good.
3 minutes to go. It's Chris Latham. Well, has been a remarkable recovery. Just thinking of something else to think of with regard to Chris Latham, who's one of my favourite talents over the years to watch. But he's had knee surgery and has scarcely been in action in recent times. It's a lovely kick.
And you have to say, Australia playing the right tactical game, you know, put the ball down in the Canadian 22, make them attack from deep, and, you know, it makes it very, very difficult to Canada, who, you know, if one's honest, don't have the same sort of firepower that the Wallabies have.
No.
Goal numbers.
DTH van der Merwe, the youngster who's come through, South African born, his name would imply, but Canadian resident, and I take my hat off to Rick Suggett, because he's deliberately, apart from the nucleus of old hands, he's deliberately brought some nurturing, some very young talent, and given them the experience which, you know, is invaluable. And you look at, say, the wing three-quarters, and certainly some of the back row forwards too. 22-year-old David Biddle, 24-year-old Sean Michael Stephen, and this, well, one of the older ones actually, James Pritchard here. And they're singing the local rugby songs that you hear at the occasions when Stade Toulousain take the field. And they're lovely old songs. They're not, they're just sort of for the region, from the region, part of the Toulouse culture.
Hang on, lads, hang on.
Any late night Saturday in a cafe, you'll hear them till some unbelievable hours in the morning. Or more regularly these days on a Sunday, because a lot of the games on a Sunday. Last minute. not a great deal to shout about, other than the fact that Canada have survived, much to their credit, the expected onslaught, which has not been translated into points. It's been there in terms of territory and possession. Not a bad tactic from Huxley. Might have done it a bit earlier, particularly with misses like that. The cover of Justin Mensah-Coker.
Let's play, that went back. Hold it. No.
Still in play. Drew Mitchell and Chris Latham on that far flank. Latham it was, who just plants it back now. I want to try before half-time if they can. Takiri. Shepherd, my good, well, rather sums it up in a way. Well, oh dear, not the greatest pass, and as the final whistle goes for this first half, moments to reflect on for Australia and for John Connolly, I think.
Well, as you said, it rather sums up Australia's first half. That long pass out just couldn't be held by Cameron Shepherd after a nice break by Takiri, and you know, conditions not helping, but you just expect a side of Australia's calibre and quality to be a little bit more precise, a little bit more accurate, and you know, they really should be more than 13 points ahead.
13-0 to Australia at half-time.
Say next weekend.
This was good, well controlled. Might have resorted to it a little sooner in the game, these conditions, and not much else going right. Clearly they're a stronger pack, and there was the rumble and the try for Adam Freer. Yes, I mean, you watched last night. I was on the train, I didn't see it, but what about the comparison? Is it possible to make any comparison with England-Australia here as a neutral from Scotland?
A neutral from Scotland. I mean, I think it was interesting. I mean, very different sides. I mean, Tonga offered a very different challenge to England than Canada are offering Australia. I mean, they look pretty good. The one thing that you know, I think England would be a little bit concerned about would be their midfield defence. Johnny Wilkinson and Ollie Barkley didn't really click in the midfield, and actually when Andy Farrell came on to replace Barkley, things looked a lot more secure. And you know, I just wonder, I mean, there's been a lot talked about Andy Farrell, whether Brian Ashton will think about bringing him into the midfield alongside Johnny Wilkinson. Partly for his organisational skills as well as his physical presence. But, you know, they did look a little bit vulnerable in the midfield, but they took their opportunities well. They scored a couple of good tries in the first half, and they scored them at really important times as well.
And the difficulty in comparing them, in the sense is that, you know, this is basically Australia B and that was England A.
Absolutely, yeah.
Serge Blanco was pretty happy to see that sort of try in the end. A lot of supporters, every nation. It's a lovely city, Bordeaux. And these ghost-like figures here. Aussie supporting tourists. Terrific. Beautiful pedestrianised centre to Bordeaux, which I always love to visit. And not a bad region for wine either, David.
No, we've got a...
This is nice. Tulson will be so jealous.
Oh, you will be jealous.
We're not opening it till the end, Tulson. So here they come. Doesn't seem to have the spare set of gear. They're wearing the same suits. Chaban gets everywhere these days. It's become a folk hero over here. It's launched a pop song or something, I heard. I think I heard something on the radio which they said was Chaban. Well, it sounded like he looks. That's not being rude. I think it was a sort of rap. I don't know. I'm not up in these things, but it was entertaining, I think. So, 40 minutes to go. And for these guys, well, that nucleus I've mentioned a few times, their grand farewell to the international scene.
Well, I think what Canada need to do is really try and get possession and string a few phases of play together. They just haven't. They've been denied possession in this first half by Australia, and you just sense Australia had a stranglehold on both territory and possession. So we'll see whether they can do anything different in the second half.
All set for the next 40 minutes then. It's not a winning lead in normal circumstances. You wouldn't sit on 13-0. Australia 13, quarter-finalists assured. Canada, well, they'd drawn a game, they lost the other two, but not by vast margins. They would love a win. It's a long shot, but who knows in this weird game of rugby union football. Great take that was. Brilliant start by Mark Chisholm. Not quite sure what game Julian Huxley's really been playing at fly half, and almost spectacular. Pritchard on the wide outside with Munro coming up here. There's a bit of the sort of Scottish Gaelic Highland game stuff there. He's tossing the rugby ball, not the caber. Yeah, I think Huxley in a way has fallen between two stools, hasn't he? I mean, neither sort of putting up the high balls and not occasionally trying to launch the threes. I don't know. Well, set them up.
Well, it was interesting. For me, he should have stuck the high ball up there. You know, in these sorts of conditions, you don't run from 30 yards from your line. Just,
Ashley Cooper will not thank him there. He got man and ball, and the penalty end result, and could be just the start Canada wants to this second half.
Well, you do wonder if Canada are able to put one or two phases of play together, whether they will actually trouble Australia.
I think they're missing Larkham and Barnes today, I have to say. Here are Canada's chances with James Pritchard. Yes, he's kicked very well this tournament, absolutely superb. And there, the lift that his team needed and the crowd have loved, and all really because of that. Big tackle by Cooper, Ashley Cooper. By Dave Buck on Ashley Cooper, shouldn't I say. Well, 10 points, nothing. 3 minutes gone of this second half.
It is very, very slippery out there.
Yeah, but even so.
Number 6, make sure we stay on 6. Number 9.
He was under no pressure.
Don't touch anyone. Closer, please. Crouch. Touch. Pause. Engage.
Sam Cordingley. And again the scrum half. No spring chicken. 31. Next. Swansea's had a spell there in Grenoble, and here's Chakiri trying to carry it on, trying to get some momentum going. It's sort of not really fizzed yet, and Chisholm is held. Canada closing the gaps well. Accordingly again. This time Morgan Williams, good spoiling scrum half, always has been. Australia back to square one. It was John Thiel getting accordingly out of the way. This is good work by Canada, really. David Lyons, oh, he's strong. Played all 7 games in the last World Cup. Big powerhouse of a man. But as only had relatively few games back since missing the whole of last year. Looks like he's gone down now as well, which is a worry for Australia.
No, it's not. Number 4, careful as you join the ruck.
He had trouble with calf muscles and deep vein thrombosis. I know. David Lyons, who's lying there, still on the deck.
Number 3.
They might need to stop the game here if it's coming in that direction.
Tackle him, Luke. Good.
Well, there's no way through. It's never looked like being penetrated here. Well taken. But Drew Mitchell.
Wait, Red, don't touch, Red, don't touch, Red, no.
Again, it's Daper with impact.
Thank you, Red.
Accordingly. All credit to Canada, as I can say. They have covered everything there.
Well, they have, and they're slowing the ball down very well. Partly slowing the ball down, but partly Australia aren't clearing it out well enough. And, you know, as soon as it gets slowed down, it just gives 2 or 3 seconds for the Canadian defence to get organised and then to line people up. And great skills, good tackle and good offload there to Drew Mitchell. You know, when they start putting a little bit of dynamism into it, then they begin to look a little bit dangerous. But as soon as they slow down and they try and settle things down a little bit, they begin to look very, very ordinary.
First replacement. Aaron Carpenter comes on for Pat Riordan.
Don't worry about them. You worry about your own side, okay?
David Lyons, yeah, this is not good because, I don't know, can't really tell from this distance, but he's had this sequence of injuries, a calf injury with that horrible DVT threat, and then a back injury as well last year. He's only played 3 of the previous 20 games before the World Cup, and it might be ominous this for David Lyons, and not the sort of player that John Connolly will want to be losing before a quarter-final, because he must, you know, be one of his frontline troops, really.
Well, absolutely. Very important player for Australia.
And so Stephen Hoyles has come on.
It's gone back. It's gone back.
He's been very much a sort of a replacement player. He'll be wearing 20 as Australia pound away again and getting shortchanged. It is, as you say, David, it is so ponderous and slow, isn't it? They're not cleaning it out well. Ashley Cooper. I mean, the outside backs are becoming targets, aren't they, for the Canadians?
Well, they are. It's very predictable. It's far too static for them.
McMenamin this time, accordingly. Then via George Smith. It's just lacks the dynamism of the New Zealanders, and I know the conditions were different and one can't underemphasize that, but it is not impressive. It is not going to create great nerves in the England camp in this performance.
Well, I don't think so, but again, you have to appreciate, you know, a lot of their frontline players are watching from the stands rather than playing, but you know, if anything, it'll give them a little bit of a spur to say, gosh, we really need to raise the level for the next one. But when you see even there, Greg Holmes, I think is just, you know, he's nowhere near the ball when he's trying to drive out and clear it in. And they've got to target the ball in those contact areas, drive over it and clear out the Canadians.
It'll be all right, lads.
Give us something exciting, Tulson.
Well, I can tell you that David Lyons has got a left ankle injury down here on the touchline on the outside of it. When he came off, Nigel, he had about a 4-inch hole in his sock in that area, so he'd obviously been trodden on or something of that description. So when he came off, it's straight into the ice bucket. I'm looking at him right now and it doesn't look good, but
okay, at least they've got a clear week in terms of recovery time this time, but that's still, if it's a twisted ankle, that's not long. So there's Chris Latham, he's all right, and the other who I mentioned earlier had big knee surgery. Amazing what you can do with microsurgery these days. Play again in a week. So they say.
Thanks, Bryce, I agree.
Is there anything else exciting you can tell us?
You are struggling up there, aren't you, Nigel?
Well, I think the crowd are a bit. They're enjoying the band more than the rugby at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be that way, that the crowd are more into themselves at the present time than the rugby out on the pitch. I can tell you down here the rain is a little bit softer and the wind is coming in from the bottom left of the screen as our viewers are looking at it. But here come Canada.
Yeah, that's better. And the crowd, this will... I mean, if Canada score now, you've got game on, and Canada are fancying their chances here. Justin Coker held that time. But they still look the more committed, and for the reasons we've mentioned before, Australia, some instances sort of just going through half-cock, but chipped through by Adam Munro. Good follow-up as well, but it's turned over. Cameron Shepherd. Wallop. Huxley again. Accordingly, well, Sharp did well there. Was it Sharp? I think it might have been McMenamin. But they're going nowhere at the moment. Bit of room on the outside though. Chris Latham goes round the hooker. It's not over yet, but it could be. Oh, it just bounces in Canada's favour. Into touch, could have gone the other way.
Well, he didn't have much room to work with. Lovely little chip kick there.
Player.
Just the right side of the touch flag as well.
In sight of his 40th try for Australia.
But interesting, I mean, Andy Munro, when he put that little chip kick through to Canada and they followed up, put a lot of pressure on Australia. And I'm surprised Australia haven't tried one or two, because the Canadian rush defence is causing a real problem.
It's a gift. It's a gift. A mess up at the line out by Canada in defence. And George Smith finally breaks the mould. And it could not have been easier. Look at this, no marking, they're not looking.
Well, it was just overthrown, wasn't it? And that's a real shame for Canada. Hooker looking at his jumper.
Could he do that? Aaron Carpenter just come on. Throws it over the back. Or too high, or whatever. Oh dear. And that's, well, one that Australia will accept very happily, because they found it difficult. That was George Smith's 9th try, and something that eases the pressure a little bit, but not by a lot. That was the most dreadful throw-in, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was absolutely criminal to overthrow on a short line out at that sort of position. Absolutely criminal.
Well, I wasn't. Forgive me, because I was sort of thinking it was an Australian throw-in, you see, and I couldn't believe it was. Can I look back, and as you said, it was an overthrow and not just poor marking, as I said initially. 18-3 then. It stays. Minutes, 12 minutes into the second half. Latham. Well, not quite. I was going to say sensible option. And the Canadian fly half follows up well his little chip ahead.
Hands off, hands off! Number 16.
To the box where stands Stephen for Canada. Morgan Williams, fullback van der Merwe. Good follow-up by the fullback, and then an offload. And here's a half chance, not the pace to go. Needed a real speedster through the middle. Yeah, hands on the floor. Well, best little flurry by Canada that.
And just these little chip kicks, little variations to the attack there for Canada, well recovered by the big number 8. There you see the hand pushing things back. There's David Lyons with his Ice pack.
I think Tolson's in that box. No?
I heard that.
Lottie Takiri, who was 28 just a couple of days ago. Started out, of course, as a rugby league man with the Brisbane Broncos, where they breed tough midfielders. Farrell, of course, another in the England camp.
They've obviously got someone with a sense of humour. The music just playing there with raindrops keep falling on my head.
Crowd, this is applause, it's a French style, it's a support of the kicker, not meant to put him off. It works too, and Pritchard gets his second. And Canada just keep niggling and stop Australia from stretching away.
Thanks, Marius.
18-6.
Just looking at the stats there, since half-time, Australia have only made 3 more tackles, whereas Canada have made 31. And you just wonder how much that's going to tell as we go into the final quarter of this match, the fatigue that's going to be involved.
Well, the Canadian Mounted Police touring rugby team is here in the stand today, Tulson. You didn't mention that, I've just seen them.
I do apologise for that, Nigel. I didn't have my eagle eyes on that. I can tell you that Rod Snow has just come off the pitch, though, so that will be his last game in the Canadian shirt.
Didn't get a nice close-up. I'd like to have paid tribute to him. And it's going to be an end too, is it, for Morgan Williams? I think I hear a call for him to be replaced. His final play in international rugby alongside Rod Snow. Or maybe it was just something nothing to do with that. Well, I thought he was calling for a replacement.
No, it's actually Sean Michael Stephen has been replaced as well, Nigel.
Okay. Yeah, I think they need Morgan Williams to stay on, really. I can understand that Rod Snow might be wilting, or melting is the word, perhaps. Accordingly, Huxley hasn't really run this show very well, but Takiri might now set something special. Nice dummy, wants to go himself, bit selfish in the end.
Oh, he should have given it.
Dear, oh dear, crowd would feel that as well, my goodness. It's 3-1 or 3-0 almost. And the crowd jeering and then applauding as Canada recover for the moment. And the whistle's gone.
Well, that was criminal. I mean, you know, Drew Mitchell outside him was screaming for the ball. He did all the hard work. Daper couldn't hold him, and then a little bit of a dummy. And that just allowed the Canadian defence to come in. If he'd given the pass after he'd beaten that first man, Drew Mitchell would have been in for sure.
Couldn't fail. As a result, Canada have to put into the scrum.
Sorry. You right? You with us? Yeah.
I have to say, I feel that Takiri's a better winger than a centre in the Union game. You know, he's such a big, strong man, very difficult to pull down, and when you can bring him in off the wing, and he does look for work as a winger, he's much more dangerous.
Lost forward, no advantage. No penalties, gentlemen.
Well, some big games this weekend.
There are a big one I've got a bit of interest in Saint-Étienne later.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, and Scotland, of course. For those of you who realise it, David Soul is the man sitting alongside me. Has a mild interest in Italy versus Scotland tonight.
Oh, he was offside there.
What was the score last time Italy played Scotland, David?
I can't remember, thankfully, but it was about 18-0 after 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was. Yes, It's a long time ago now, though. And it's a different ball game. 37-17 seems to ring a bell.
Yeah.
But that's not in the World, wasn't in the World Cup, and experimental. Scotland were experimental that day, weren't they?
To be fair, I think it's a very different side that's playing later on this evening in Saint-Étienne than played in the RBS Six Nations earlier this year.
Being serious, in fact, I mean, Scotland, I think, of the home nations, have probably performed most consistently, creditably.
Yeah, they've done everything that's been asked of them, and you know, tonight, if they can do that again, then they're into the quarterfinals and potentially a quarterfinal against Argentina, which I think they'd fancy.
Meanwhile, Australia hammering away, and this is more like it. Lovely play, and well, I think Ashley Cooper is one player who's come out with some real credit in the backs, and that was not the first of his terrific runs. On your own, number 12, penalised the opposite number 12. That's Derek Daypuck. Crowd booing every decision going against Canada, as happens.
Yeah, here we are. He's got the ball stuck underneath him, and you know, just delays a little bit, but you know, clearly gets picked up for holding on. You mentioned the Mounties rugby team. I bumped into them earlier on today in a cafe. You've got a delightful team manager by the name of Helmut Vascher, who was telling me everything. They're playing about 4 different games over here.
Yes,
fantastic.
Well, he's a real enthusiast too. He may look after
loves his rugby.
Yeah, he does. He's a terrific all-round personality. He pops up everywhere. Just over the last quarter of the game to play out. 18-6. Accordingly, no. Well, this is not top-flight halfback play, I have to say, from Australia here. Canada still foraging, still competitive, and advantage being played for the earlier knock-on. Stay up.
Well, just, let's say, imprecise from Australia, accordingly dropping that ball originally, and then Greg Holmes trying to flop over and steal that ball.
Yes, please.
Zanella is the former Australian Wallaby, of course, coach of their Sevens squad, but has been helping Canada in this World Cup. And here's Mike James.
Lyndon, do you want to confirm the time?
Champion club Stade Francais. Well, he retired a year ago, was persuaded to carry on, settled to target a World Cup and has done so. 11 years in the French Championship.
Seconds confirmed goal.
And
that'll be fine when you're number 5's ready.
Well, they've weathered the weather and haven't really been rewarded as I think we might have hoped today. But they will have appreciated Canada's fight here. It's a great kick. Yeah, superb boot for Chad.
He got everything out of that, didn't he? Every inch that was there.
Goal number 2, please. Goal 2.
Even Serge taking part.
Even Serge, I was going to say, did he? Yes, a token hand. Mais oui.
You want to do some Mexican wave? It is fun. Yes.
Well. So what always used to amuse me at Twickenham is when the Mexican wave would come round and the committee box refused to do it. And of course the biggest, loudest boo would resound around the stadium as the Blazers refused to take part. 18-6, the last quarter. Canada would have, I think, been, well, never settled for this, but they would not be displeased with the rearguard action. Mike Webb is on there, wearing 20. Careful, penalty.
Well, I think if you'd offered Canada a margin of 18-6 with 20 minutes to go, they'd have taken it.
Absolutely.
You know, whatever the conditions.
Number 6, please. Number 6.
So what's happening here? Is it McMenamin?
Second time, give away a penalty. I will be very careful about your future conduct in this match. Away you go. He knows. I don't.
He knows I don't. Well, bit of footwork, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was a bit of a swinging arm there on the replay, and well, Colin White's had Chris White's had a few words with Colin Hughes during the course of the match. He warned him for language when Canada were having a scrum on their own 5 yards. He's had another word earlier on in the second half, and so he's obviously got his number.
Well, I think the Mexican wave is the thing that's excited the crowd the most, I have to say, in this second half. With 18 minutes to go. He's got away. He's got away. Drew Mitchell. Well, took his chance and took it well. And gets that 4th try, so it's a bonus point if they needed it, which they don't. But he's a good finisher, this young product of Western Force.
And a lovely change of direction in the kick there. Kicked into the box, and Drew Mitchell shows good hands in very difficult conditions. And, well, for once, Australia are able to finish it off. They've had a couple of opportunities in this second half which have gone begging. No mistake this time by Drew Mitchell.
Here's a player who was with the Queensland Reds and came out of the Australian 7 squad. Got his first contract with the Reds and has moved across to Perth, of course, in the Western Force this last season. Always thought of himself as a fullback, but has slotted in well on the wing. And Cameron Shepherd adds the points. And Mike Fletch replaces Colin Hughes before Hughes does any further damage and risks being yellow carded or whatever. 25-6 and an end to Colin Hughes, but I don't think he'll be retiring yet at 27. 16 minutes to go. 25-6.
Great clearance kick there by Chris Latham. Just he's looked class all day,
hasn't he?
I think when everything he's done, he hasn't done much, but everything he's done with real assurance, real class.
They look quite and a special applause here of Mike James. Well, an emotional moment for him. He bids farewell to the Canucks and Canada Rugby after a fantastic career at 34 and 4 World Cups and 56 caps. He bids farewell to the international ground.
Very nice ovation for him as well as he came off there.
I just think they look nothing special without Giteau and Gregan and Larkham, Mortlock somehow, and perhaps Rocky Elson, War, Palu, I don't know. Not much to strike fear. That's a better ball, isn't it? And there's Latham and Takiri in concert. And another try for Drew Mitchell.
Well, that's more like the Australia.
Saying that,
yeah.
Suddenly those produce it.
And the key players there, Takiri makes the first line break, and for once he actually gives the pass, and well taken by Chris Latham, and then he has options inside and out of him. Runners on the inside and on the outside. Cameron Shepherd shouting for the ball, Drew Mitchell in the inside. Lovely score, done at pace. Wasn't a great pass by Takiri, but Latham took it well. And I like the look of this fellow, Drew Mitchell. He's a real finisher.
nicely balanced and comes off either foot very well. A bit more like they wanted it. 5 tries now. Well, Drew Mitchell moves up near the top of the try scores. I'm trying to work it out. I can't remember who scored how many for New Zealand this morning, but that's Drew Mitchell's 7th try in the tournament. And that was the leading number up until today. But David Sol's quite a whiz kid on these sort of stats, and he might be able to update me on this one.
He was at the top of the try list earlier on with 5.
Yeah, so he must still be up there. I would have thought.
Doug Howlett had 5 as well.
Well, Howlett. Yeah, because Rokethoko got a hat-trick, I know, for New Zealand today.
Second one.
And Howlett got...
well, Rokethoko had 2 before today.
Oh, so he wasn't in it.
Up on 5 now.
And Howlett, I think, got 1 today. So what did he have before?
He had 5.
So I think maybe Mitchell is up top.
That's all right, that's totally fine, lads. We weren't happy, we started again. That's good. Thank you. Crouch, touch, pause, engage. That was moving before.
Well, it's survival now for Canada as they try to limit the damage and get something back themselves. This final flourish. This country which
Stand up, we're going to scrummage there, and I want to
has such geographical problems in terms of putting a team together, but somehow overcomes that to be competitive in the women's game and the men's.
Both of you in that scrum over there, leave each other alone.
And
right? The feet got tangled, let's put it like that.
Have accredited themselves very, very well, really,
Thank you.
throughout this tournament. I should think they've never been outclassed or humiliated. Not today, any more so than against Wales.
I think they'd be disappointed with their performance against Japan.
Yeah, that was the low.
Expected to have won that match.
Stay on, number 6, thank you.
I think the trouble is there, it was used as a game in which the non-frontline players were, we're going to have an outing. They hadn't really got another easy, well, relatively easy opponent compared with Wales, Fiji, Australia. So it wasn't their, in a sense, didn't do themselves justice, but they needed to do it to give everyone an outing.
But I think it's been great. I mean, you mentioned earlier the discussion and debate around should the Rugby World Cup be 20 teams, should it be 16? To be honest, I'm in big favour of it remaining at 20, because particularly this year the minnows have come on and
been so
really well
supported. They have come on. I mean, there's no question of that. And equally, they have been a big attraction.
Very much so. I mean, Tonga, the last time they played England, they conceded over 100 points. Yeah. Last night in Paris, it was a very, very different proposition. Georgia, another side who took a few droppings.
Ask anyone Irish about 14-10.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Tulson? Well, we've got a little break in play.
I certainly think that the minnows have come on in leaps and bounds, and the games that I've seen so far in this tournament, especially I've seen 3 of the Canadian games now, and I think they've been outstanding. Today, they've certainly done themselves justice, but you look through, even the likes of Portugal, the players, well, they might not be the best in the world, but when they've had the opportunity to play, they've certainly played. And the best part I like, Nigel, is as well with the supporters, the players have played with smiles on their faces.
Yeah, sure. Well, that was probably one of the best bits of fly-half play today, in the combination with Mensah-Coker. There's so nearly a perfect cross-kick from Munro. And a bit of Scottish magic there, which nearly produced spectacular runaway for Mensah-Coker. Just an ounce of energy too far. Knocked away by McMenamin, away by Cordingley. Huxley and Takiri lath them up in the middle. Inside from Sharp. Good play here replacement, Stephen Hoyles. Oh, has it gone forward? It's not been grounded. Have a look. I don't think it's been grounded for Cameron Shepherd.
Linda, can you have a look, please? Is it?
Well, I think it was knocked on over the try line, to be honest.
Grounding and the act of scoring, please.
You know, it's funny. I mean, the touch judge was well positioned there. Here's the inside ball. But you can see the touch judge coming up there. He's well positioned, unless...
No, it's no. I mean, why doesn't he just say it?
It's a knock on over the line.
End of story.
Yeah.
Instead of this silly pause.
And you don't need to look at it from different angles either, if one's honest. There's no question that's not a try.
Yeah.
Well, it's adding more fuel to the fire as far as I'm concerned. Let the referees in association with the touch judge make the decision outright. I mean, I think they're afraid of being sued these days, aren't they, for a wrong decision or something?
Well, there have been some decisions, you know, it's particularly some of these driving mauls which have been, you know, claimed for tries, where tries have been awarded, and you can't see the ball at all, you know. Why on earth the video ref says, yes, it's a try? You know, I've no idea.
Up they come.
Well, the fans showing a lot of stamina.
That's good. Stay there, 9. No,
Phil Wall comes on for Nathan Sharp.
Goal away. Back foot. Number 6, 7-6.
Luke Tate. Oh, could be a gift for McManaman. Can anyone get underneath? If not, the try. He's not given his held up. Well done, somebody. That's actually little Morgan Williams. I've seen him do that before.
Yeah. Well, he saved that try in the first half.
He did. He's a tough nut. And he's going to save something here for Canada.
No question about
well played.
And for once, Chris White able to make the decision without going upstairs.
Yeah. Well done, Morgan Williams, 31-year-old, well known around Europe, the captain of Canada.
Both sides, we've got new players. We've been good so far today.
Well, interesting. John Connolly's letting 1 or 2 players come on, but there's no sign of Gito, Gregan, or Elson.
No, I think they're in wraps at the moment. This is George Smith. Well, a few moments, of course, where you could see what Australia can produce, but this wasn't one of them.
Well, there's that man, Drew Mitchell, coming in on the short ball from George Smith. Again, it's interesting, talking about moves from set piece play. I mean, so many sides are trying to create second and third phases before they try and release the ball, whereas actually, you know, from set piece, scrum and line out, you're one-on-one in the back, and I'm surprised more sides aren't trying to create more gaps from set piece play when there is a straight one-on-one marking. Very few back row moves you see nowadays.
You know, that's quite true. That is good point. 71 minutes and 52 seconds.
Please confirm, Marius, with everyone. 71:52.
Not sure if you can hear me up there, Nigel, but David Nostradamus Soul has got one wrong, because George Gregan, it looks, is going to come on for the last 5 minutes.
He just wants to get more caps to keep his record out.
Just one thing also, why we've got this break in play, that for the Australian viewers out there, David Lyons was taken up the tunnel on a wheelchair about 5 or 10 minutes ago, so that left ankle may be a bit of a problem. But you talked earlier about the Australian team and things a little bit different today and how it looks, but it looks so much better, doesn't it, when you have Gregan at 9, Larkham at 10, Giddow at 12 and Mortlock at 13.
It does indeed, I have to say, and I don't think there's been any fluency from real tactical nous from the half-back pairing here. I don't think they look in the same league.
No, I think the one thing about England's performance last night was they kept their shape, they kept their discipline, and they kept playing to the right sort of game plan, whereas, you know, Australia today, they've been a little bit sort of all over the place.
Remarkable couple of Well, your twins are a pair, aren't they? But Dan Pletch and Mike Pletch has just gone off injured. There's Dan Pletch coming on. Oh, no, we haven't seen the end of Rod Snow. He's coming back on again. Now, how about that? There you are. There's a 37-year-old willing to keep going. But they're twins. And to have a pair of props as twins in an international side is something I don't know. Have you ever encountered that, David?
No, the closest was the Milne brothers, but there's no way that Ian and David were twins.
No. I think it's quite extraordinary. Anyway, here's Takiri. Oh, did well then. And Latham gets the score. Oh, a smile from John Connolly. Well, it's been quite a turnaround, and he knows where his talent is. And Takiri and Latham, and I don't know what Latham's saying, but quite relieved to get that one. That means he's scored 5 tries in this World Cup. Watch here.
Well, there we are. A back row pick-up and a move. Little gap. And in the end, it was 2 on no one.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't think Takiri was going to pass it again. He fell and had to. Unkind, maybe. Good try.
Harsh but fair, possibly.
Good try. Well, if he was intending to pass, he'd leave it till the last moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and here he is. He wants another cap. So he's getting one. 138th cap, the most capped player of all time in any corner of the world. In his 4th World Cup, a certain George Gregan comes on. Don't think he really needs the outing. He's played the other 3 games.
I'll tell you one thing there about George Gregan.
Yeah.
When he was told 5 minutes, he put his hand up and showed 5, and with almost a look of disgust on his face, that he had to put the tracksuit on the bench.
That's so right. Well.
He doesn't want to ruin his hairstyle.
No.
Thank you, 15.
Well, of course, one of the veterans of '99 when he and under a certain John Eales won the World Cup. George Gregan, now 34. I think what he wants is a try. I think I'm right in saying his last try was against Ireland last year. So that's perhaps what he fancies his chances of. Hasn't had one in this World Cup yet. 37-6. This tells you that the fight back from Canada has almost been extinguished. But good old Rod Snow is still there running out again. Perhaps he wanted another round of applause on his retirement. Here's Gregan now. Immediately looks a sharper service, or I'm imagining it.
No, I don't think you are.
Takiri, double miss move. And in from Shepherd. Knock on here.
Well, Shepherd just flung it in play. I think they'd be better of taking the touch and attacking the Canadian line-out, but
the other reason why Gregan may have come on, of course, is that he avoids the dirt trekker stuff and having the sort of the 20 minutes run out, the training session after the pitch for those who haven't played. Morgan Williams and George Gregan, 2 of the old hands in the number 9 shirt. Good run this by Aaron Carpenter. And Morgan pops on. Be nice if they could get a final flourish and a try. Mike Webb for Canada into the last 4 minutes. Morgan again. Oh, we just hung on to it. Referee said it went back. No, he didn't. Good for you, Chris White. It's a bit of an injury to Ander Munro, by the look of it. Oh, that's danger. Drew Mitchell calls a mark. He can take it, and he's thinking.
Well, I thought he tapped it and went.
So did I. Yeah. And then he kicked it.
Yes.
Watch.
There we go. There's the mark. Now he taps and goes. There you go.
Didn't take it out of his hand. The ball has to actually be released from your hands, doesn't it? And I think that. But I don't think that's why he stopped it. Okay, Mensah Coker. Nick Trenkle. Monroe's all right, obviously. Fly half is back there. Morgan Williams. Big number 13 is Mike Pike. Rod Snow there. And now Carpenter, big hit coming in there. Well, Australia seem to step their game up a bit.
Well, I think they have. I mean,
maybe the impact of the changes.
And when you look at the scoreline, I mean, I think it's a pretty comfortable scoreline in the end, but it doesn't really tell the story of the game. And they only really started stretching away in the final quarter, where they scored the last 3 tries.
Under Monroe, late of Glenarman School, or college, should I say? Glenarman College, isn't it?
It is college, yeah.
What do you call old boys of Glenarman College?
Just OGs.
Okay. There's Chris Latham.
Nigel, just to let you know down here that...
Jesus, no.
2 minutes, everyone.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Nigel, just to let you know that Hugh McMenamin, the Australian flanker, has been named man of the match.
Right. What do you think of that decision? Whoever made it.
Maybe the best of a bad bunch, I'd say, because it hasn't been great. But I suppose that in the second half there will be a case for Drew Mitchell, because he's got himself involved in the action, come up with 2 good tries.
Yeah, I would have given it to Drew Mitchell. I think his work rate's very good. He comes off his wing, he looks for the ball, and if Takiri had been a wee bit more generous, he could have had more than 2.
Well, he is our man of the match.
Have you got a trophy for him?
I'll send him one.
It's a mistake. No.
Well,
I don't know who picks man of the match.
No, there have been some very interesting decisions.
It's not me, but they actually picked the man of the match with 20 minutes remaining, so it is a little bit difficult, but the sponsors do get together and pick the man of the match.
There was one game where they picked Ramiro Pez, Italian fly half, as man of the match. Not 5 minutes before, Simon Mannix and I saying, well, if there's one guy who's had a lousy game, but really, you know, is lucky to still be on the pitch, it's Ramiro Pez. 30 seconds later came the message that the man of the match had been awarded to Ramiro Pez, which was just unbelievable. We just thought they'd obviously got the wrong number shirt or something, but there we go. Not the greatest spectacle for Australia, the relief of having come through, although they've lost David Lyons, that looks worrying for them. Otherwise untarnished. Half a dozen tries. A few seconds to go. Canada, pride in the jersey, respect, and made it quite a contest.
Oh, they have. They've been very physical all afternoon, and they've competed. It just, you know, signs of fatigue nowadays. I mean, in the final sort of seconds of the match, and they've made a phenomenal amount of tackles. You know, 87 tackles to half of that by Australia.
And added to that, you know, they've had a couple of days less recovery time. It seems only, well, it was only a couple of days ago they were drawing with Japan in that very tight game. We're into injury time now, so the end of a very hard, but I think encouraging the World Cup for Canada here, and we all know about the problems they have. There's Mike James just being embraced by coach Rick Suggett.
This is a penalty.
Don't know if he's got the shoes on or if he's got the bare feet, as he traditionally has. Oh, that's a bad kick. Oh, that would be sad if it cost Canada a try. It hasn't. There we are. The whistle goes. And so it has been a satisfactory outcome in the end for Australia. It's been a brave finale by Canada. They have our respect. 37 points to 6. And Australia are top of the group, of course. We knew that. And so there are hugs of emotion and farewell. And one of the stalwarts, Mike James, and the others who retire. Glenn Ella there too, the assistant coach, and Morgan Williams. He bids farewell to the game. Well, they have been big players, haven't they, in Canada? Let's dwell on that for a moment.
Yeah, they have, and you know, I think they can be proud of what they've achieved, not only in this World Cup, but over the piece for Canada. And I think, again, people like these really set and are the standard bearers for Canadian rugby. And, they're competing on the world stage, they're competing in European competitions. And, hopefully it'll inspire other younger Canadians to emulate them and to follow them.
I agree. 6 tries for Australia, and they got better as they went along. Forwards, though, in a way, you can thank them, Australia can, for what they did in terms of actually getting points on the board in the first half, with Baxter and Freer scoring when the backs really weren't blending so well. As we look at some of the heroes of Canadian rugby, no less than that, Rod Snow amongst them, and of course, emotional after all those years. As 11 years, in fact 13 years since Mike James got his first cap. And John Connolly, and a side that he knows now has this great
the greatest conditions to
hurdle ahead. Here's Morgan Williams then.
Fantastic performance nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I'm hugely proud of the guys. We knew that we were going to be up for it today, and I thought, especially in the first half, we fronted up very well. And just at the end they're such a good side. It's any little mistake they turn over and they can capitalize on so. But I was hugely proud of my guys today.
On a personal note, this is your last performance for Canada. How proud are you to be part of the Canadian setup?
No, it's been a great career for me. I've been immensely happy with Canadian rugby, and it's improving. It's improving every World Cup. So for the next generation of guys to come through, I wish them all luck.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, rightly so, well said. And for Australia, well, we knew this wasn't the frontline team, and we know that I think the second half was probably a bit more realistic in terms of what we can expect in the future.
Yeah, Australia dominating possession, dominating territory, and really had a stranglehold on it, and translated into six tries. Lack of shape to the game. I think that would be a worry for John Connolly and his team. But equally, it was the second string Australian side rather than the first string.
Captain for Australia today was George Smith. It wasn't the easiest day for him.
George, a slow start, but the team seemed to get into their groove in the second half.
Yeah, it definitely was a slow start. The first half wasn't a pretty game, but we definitely came away with the win, and we're very glad that we put on a few tries. But that performance we can definitely improve on.
What do you feel needs improving for the next game against England?
A number of areas. The breakdown wasn't the greatest in that area. It was I guess Shemoswell in that part. So that's an area we have to fix up, and a number of areas. But come quarterfinals, knockout stages, we'll definitely leave nothing out there.
And a proud man yourself today, captaining the team.
Yeah, very proud and very honoured to represent your country and also to captain it. So I not only honour myself but my family as well. So very happy to get the honour of skippering the team.
Congratulations and all the best against England next week.
Okay, thank you.
Well, second half, and for Canada, well, I think for one moment, perhaps they and the crowd thought, hang on, they're going to be in the hunt here, but not for long.
No, I mean that was a gift of a try for George Smith. I mean,